April 30th, 2023. You guessed it. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't. Talked to you a little bit today because I got an email the other day. It says I'm just completely confused on watching all these prepper channels. I'm confused on what to do, what not to do. How do I do this? How do I do that? My first response is there's a bunch of prepper channels on YouTube. There's a lot. They cover different stuff. You know, some of them are just news channels. Some of them show you how to do stuff. But one thing they all have in common, they tell you need to get out of the cities. You know, you need to be more self-sufficient. You need to get off the grid. You need to, basically homestead lifestyle. And I understand what they were talking about when they asked me, well, how do I do that? Because they don't ever tell me how to do that. Well, one thing you got to understand is a lot of the channels on here are not fully off grid. You know, they're out here, they're using tractors, they're using equipment, they're going to town, they're buying stuff, things like that. How many prepper channels on here do we see that say, hey, I'm off grid, but I had to go get gas to fill up my generator because my solar's not working? Gas makes you back on grid, right? Or I've got propane stored up, I've got this stored up. You're not off grid, right? You're still dependent on that stuff. You still have to go physically pay for it and get it. You're not going to be out here trading right now gold and silver, for some propane or gas. It's just not going to happen. We see a lot of that. We also see channels that tell you, don't go shopping alone, don't do this alone, don't do that alone. Stay at your homestead, live off the land. But yet when you're watching their videos, what do you see? You see them in town shopping, you see them going on vacation, they're going here, they're going there, so it's confusing to people, right? One thing you got to understand, the bigger channels on here, this is their income. This is their job. This is what they do to make money. Now, granted, some of them may have a spouse that works a full-time job or something like that, but the majority of them, this is their income, or they draw retirement and things like that. So I can understand how someone's going to get completely confused by saying, well, this person's telling me to live off grid, but, they're always buying gas, or they're always, going to Home Depot or Lowe's buying stuff, all this and that. So are they off grid? Yes, they're off grid, but no, they're not off grid as far as being fully off the system, right? They're still dependent on stores for things they need and things like that. That's because it's really, really hard to be fully off grid. Technically, if you're watching a video from someone who's claiming they're completely off grid, but yet they're posting YouTube videos, they're not off grid. They're still paying a bill for the internet or their cell phone or something like that. It's really hard to go completely off grid. You have to go so far off that you're not dependent on stores. You're not dependent on this type of stuff like YouTube and all that, right? You're just living off what you've got on your property. And that's what I say. It's so hard when you watch some of these channels that have all these animals, right? They have several chickens, horses, cattle, goats, turkeys, all this kind of stuff, right? And you listen to them, they're like, well, we went to the feed and seed store, we had to buy feed, If you cannot grow enough food on the property you own for all your animals and yourself, when SHTF happens, guys, you're going to be hurting because then you've got too many animals and no way to take care of them, right? You think back, I'm big on your history. Remember back on your history. Read back, these people had a lot of cattle and things like that. They had these huge farms, right? They were able to grow their corn, their hay, all this on their farm. Some of these channels on here, they're dependent on the stores for what they need as far as feed and stuff, supplemental feed. When this goes full-blown SHTF, a lot of the channels on here are going to have trouble because they have too many animals. Their systems are still dependent on the grid as far as fuel, propane, feed, things like that. People ask me all the time, what channels to watch. What you want to watch, but take every channel you're watching as entertainment value. If they're doing something on there that you want to learn to do, yes, watch them and learn what they're doing, and watch them, and then you can kind of get an idea on stuff. But the only way you're ever going to learn when you're wanting to do something is with these. You've got to use your hands. You've got to learn. You got to have hands-on experience to learn. We've talked several times about prepper groups, mags and things. Have a lot of channels on here. Yes, we do have one, but it's not a huge mag. But you also got to understand, a lot of these prepper channels on here, they have pretty good size mags, right? And you're going to see issues come up in those in a full-blown SHTF event, because eventually somebody's going to be like, well, Why does Jimmy John get to go sit all day and do security while I'm over here having to dig a ditch for a latrine? You know, that's not fair. You're going to have these type of issues in prepper mags. We've talked about this before. It's not going to be all hunky-dory and everything goes good. For a couple of weeks, it may go good. Heck, for a year, you may not have no issues. But eventually, you're going to have animosity inside the group, right? It's just going to happen. It's the way it is, the way life is. You can't change it because no two people are the exact same. They're not. Regardless of how much they like to do the same stuff, they're still not the same two people at the end of the day. But these channels on here, I keep getting asked which ones to follow, whichever one you want to follow. Like I said, learn what you want to learn from them. Take it all as entertainment value. Because a lot of the channels on here, this is how they make their money. Some of them will even tell you this is their income is off YouTube. That's how they support themselves, or through sponsorships, or, you know, hey, use my 10% discount code at the end of the video, right? That kind of stuff. But you got to understand, a lot of these channels are not full-blown off the grid. Majority of them is not. Just because you have a solar system, you know, and you don't have water ran to your house like city water, or you don't have a power line or a phone line ran to your house, right? But you're still having to run generators and things like that. You're not off the grid. You know, you're still having to use stuff that is grid tied. You're having to get fuel. You're uploading videos. You got to have internet access. You're still paying out of your pocket for stuff, and that's what is confusing people. And also, you'll see a lot of these channels on here, they tell you all this stuff, but they don't tell you what it costs to get it, how they got it, how they're paying for it. Because, you know, I may be old and not understand the way things are going right now, but I don't know any banks that would loan you money on property with nothing on it, you know, off your only income is what you make off YouTube. I don't see a bank doing it. They may do it, I don't know, but I wouldn't think you'd be able to do it. So my advice to you is save up your money, find you a piece of property if that's the lifestyle you're wanting to get. Right now, learn everything you can learn. Watch all the videos you can watch. Buy your property, understand what it takes to live off that property before you even buy it. You know, understand your water. Do you have water on the property? You know, do you have enough area to plant? If you're going to get animals, do you have enough area to house the animals inside of a fence? Do you have an area to build a barn? Do you have enough area to grow enough feed to feed these animals? Because believe me, at the end of the day, a lot of these homestead prepper channels on here with all these animals are going to have a hard time. And they'll be like, well, I got 2 years of food stocked up for my animals. That's awesome. What are you going to do at the end of that 2 years? Another thing, when you're raising animals, people get mad when I say this. Do not look at your animals as pets. They are livestock. Your chickens, your pigs, your goats, they're livestock. Your cattle, they're livestock. Your rabbits, they're livestock. You know, if you're just raising them as a pet, and you know, I understand that if that's the way you want to raise them. But when it comes time to having to do something with that animal as far as eating or something like that, you're going to have a harder time taking care of that animal to help take care of your family, right? Because you're not looking at it as livestock. You'll hear a bunch of people, oh, when the time comes, I can do it. A lot of people can't. I've seen it with my own eyes. People around there, you know, they raise chickens and things, and when it comes time to butcher their chickens, they got to get somebody else in to do it because they can't physically do it. You know, well, they can physically do it, but they can't mentally do it. They're attached to it, right? That's the main goal. I tell everybody is do not make your livestock pets. Don't. If your end goal for them is to never, you know, put them in a freezer, by all means, make them your pets. But if you think there's a time you're raising this animal and you're going to have to, you know, process it to feed your family, don't make it a pet, guys. It's confusing out here, I know. My channel, we just tell you the way we think it is, and a lot of people don't watch my channel, and that's fine. But guys, that's my thoughts on it. I'm going to make some people mad, but if you're buying fuel for generators and you're telling somebody not to go, you know, don't go shopping alone, and then you're posting videos of going town and buying stuff, or if you're, you know, posting videos telling people stay at home, don't go on vacation, and then you're out here at the beach a couple of weeks later, yeah, you know, you got to understand they're hitting on what's hot in the news to get them views. You got to understand that. Guys, stay safe, get prepped up, keep your head on a swivel, be aware of your surroundings at all times, protect yourself and your family at all times. If you're still watching, hit that subscribe button. We're still trying to grow. It's hard to grow here. Stay safe, get prepped up.